Rescuers move rubble to search for possible earthquake survivors in Colombia. Iranian president says Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei asked for unity and cohesion. And Labor Department looking to revamp heat at work warnings. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The death toll in Monday's earthquake in Colombia has risen to 132, with more than 570 people injured. The 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck in western Colombia, damaging more than 1,600 buildings and leaving many trapped under debris while their loved ones and rescue workers searched through rubble. Tracy Furness reports.
The powerful earthquake struck at 7:34 in the morning at a depth of 103 kilometers in Choco province, the country's geological service said. It was felt across hundreds of kilometers across western Colombia. Just 55 kilometers from the earthquake's epicenter, the city of Pereira felt the brunt, with many buildings collapse and people trapped under the rubble. Volunteers and rescue workers passed pieces of concrete and rubble down a long line, endeavoring to clear the area and find those trapped. The quake ravaged cities across western Colombia, including Cali, Quibdó, Pereira and Manizales. Soldiers were mobilized to join rescue workers in Choco, as Colombia's President Abelardo de la Espriella met with Governor of Choco, Nubia Carolina Cordoba Curi. The earthquake presents the first major test for de la Espriella, who was sworn in as the country's leader on Friday. Seismologist Rodrigo Alejandro Leon Loya said a magnitude 7.4 earthquake in the area is unusual. He said the area is a high-frequency earthquake zone, but they are usually small and hardly ever felt, making a large earthquake unusual. The U.S. State Department announced it would provide $15.5 million for emergency shelter, food and other aid.
Iran's president claims he has held a meeting with a new Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, who delivered an appeal for unity and cohesion as the country grapples with crippling U.S. sanctions. In Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump flips the script of Tehran's call for war reparations and issues, demand that Iran pay financial compensation for casualties spanning a 50-year period. Danny Zhou has the story.
The nearly 7-hour meeting between Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and Mojtaba Khamenei marks only their second face-to-face talk after Khamenei assumed power in March following a US-Israeli strike that killed his father, the longtime former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Pezeshkian tells IRIB that they discuss people's livelihoods, the state of the market, employment, housing and problems arising from the US sanctions, without providing details as to when and where they met. He states Khamenei's primary directive for the administration was to preventing divisions from emerging. The push for a united front comes as the Iranian government insists that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed to commercial traffic until American forces end naval blockade and aggressive acts against Iran. Its Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Begay notes Monday that under the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3314, a naval blockade of this kind amounts to an act of aggression. He stresses during a weekly press conference, as long as other US violations continue, the necessary conditions will not be in place for us to say that the Strait of Hormuz has become a safe waterway. While they're holding separate talks with Oman over transit through the strait, including mapping out a temporary shipping corridor, the official says the actual reopening hinges on negotiations with Washington. Earlier, Tehran also conditioned the reopening on receiving compensation from Washington. US President Donald Trump instead turns the financial liability back on Iran. He states they should pay those damages they've done over a 50-year period for all the people that they have killed and gravely wounded. Meanwhile, a TV station released footage showing damaged boats, warehouses and debris at Yemen's Red Sea port of Mocha in the wake of Sunday's missile and drone attacks by Houthi rebels that killed 4 military personnel and 3 civilians. The strike comes amid the most significant intensification of military activity since a UN-brokered truce took effect in April 2022. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
The Washington Post reports that U.S. President Donald Trump secretly flew out of last month's NATO summit in Ankara on a military aircraft, while the White House made it appear that the Republican president was flying on Air Force One. The Post said the operation was prompted by an Iranian assassination threat against Trump. The ruse was carried out as journalists and some White House staff members were led to believe they were on the same plane as the president as he began his journey back to Washington. In Ankara, Trump boarded the old Air Force One jet in view of television cameras ahead of the plane flying to Royal Air Force Mildenhall in the United Kingdom. However, after boarding the plane, the newspaper claimed he was secretly shuttled minutes later to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, via an airport catering truck typically loaded with meals and supplies. Trump then flew to Mildenhall on the smaller jet. Russia bombards Ukrainian cities with missiles, drones, and glide bombs, killing at least 9 civilians overnight. This as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warns Moscow is receiving new military help from North Korea. This comes as Ukraine attacks the petroleum hub of Nizhnekamsk in central Russia's Tatarstan region, killing 13 people and injuring 75 others. Danny Rao tells us more.
The Ukrainian military says it hit an oil refinery in Nizhnekamsk, which is about 1,200 kilometers east of the Ukrainian border and has a population of about 240,000. Russian officials didn't say what the drones targeted, but the city is home to 2 refineries and a petrochemical plant. Ukraine has targeted Russian oil facilities with long-range drones almost daily in recent months. The campaign has caused fuel shortages in Russia, eaten into its refining capacity, and unsettled the population. This comes as Russian missiles strike Kyiv's Shevchenkivsky district, including the grounds of a children's hospital. Children and medical workers were in shelters and no one was hurt. The strike left 2 craters and damaged windows and a gas pipe. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian forces used ballistic missiles supplied by North Korea in their overnight attack on the southeastern Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia, where local officials say 6 people were killed and 19 wounded. Zelensky says Russia has received additional ballistic missiles from Pyongyang and is preparing to deploy more North Korean troops. Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signed a strategic partnership agreement just over 2 years ago. Elsewhere, Russia's highest court bars the only party opposing the Kremlin's military action in Ukraine from the ballot in next month's parliamentary election. The Supreme Court annuls the registration of Yabloko, which is Russian for apple, after an appeal from a pro-Kremlin party. A crowd of supporters greeted Yabloko leader Nikolai Rybakov with applause as he left the courthouse in central Moscow. He vowed to appeal. Dan Rahul, TV News.
The very hot weather warning is currently in force, with several areas across the city recording temperatures exceeding 35 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Weather authorities have also issued the amber heat stress at work warning. This as Commissioner for Labor Sam Hui said there could be updates to the hot weather work warning system. Timothy Lee has more.
Amid blistering weather conditions, workers continue to toil under the sun at this construction site in Central's Longhua Road. Under the Labor Department's heat stress work warning, heat stress is categorized according to the observatory's amber, red, and black system. Since it was rolled out in 2023, the system has already issued over 200 amber warnings, but never red or black. And even with the mercury having surpassed the record-breaking 36.9 degrees on Sunday, the heat stress work warning remained at the amber level. Speaking with TVB News, Commissioner for Labor Sam Hui stressed the current hot weather warning system should be questioned. He noted there is a difference between the scientific data behind the heat and residents' perception of the weather, which influences the level issued under the heat stress at work warning. Commissioner for Labor Sam Hui further said the current heat stress at work warning already takes into consideration factors such as temperature, humidity, and wind speed. He added that his department is already holding talks with the observatory to assess the need to adjust the system. Former observatory director Lam Chu-ying, meanwhile, suggested using a more straightforward method to set a standard for the hot weather warning system, with the amber level issued at 35 degrees, the red level at 37 degrees, and black at 39 degrees or above. The former observatory chief also proposed using the wet bulb globe temperature measurement to guide the warning system, as the device combines considerations for temperature, humidity, wind speed, and radiation levels. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
A funeral parlor in Hong Kong has been forced to limit its services following a failure in its electricity system. From online posts circulating on social media, Global Funeral Parlor was seen to have ventilation system issues starting Sunday. Mourners had to burn ritual offerings amid smoke-filled corridors. In a notice, the parlor said as specific replacement components would need to be ordered, it's likely the power system won't be fully restored over the short term. With limited funeral hall rental services for now, parlor staff will contact relevant undertakers to coordinate arrangements with bereaved families who have made bookings and follow up on each case. And still ahead, tropical cyclone Typhoon continues to swamp Shanghai and other mainland cities. Donald Trump orders fewer childhood vaccines and split MMR shots. Police drones catch 10 suspected of dangerous driving. Welcome back. Some experts have called India's unilateral naming of 27 locations in Jiangnan region on its official map an act of self-deception and warn it runs counter to improved bilateral ties, according to a Global Times report. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the move won't change the fact that Jiangnan region belongs to China. The Indian government last Friday mapped 27 standardized place names in its so-called Arunachal Pradesh state and said the updated survey of India map included 4 mountain passes and high-altitude lake. A professor at the Center for South Asia and Indian Ocean Studies under Shanghai International Studies University says in an interview it's India's unilateral administrative move to strengthen its claim of control and doesn't alter the legal status of the area. In Beijing, a foreign ministry spokesman contends China does not recognize the so-called Arunachal Pradesh illegally set up by India. He reaffirms China's territorial sovereignty over Jiangnan region, adding India's move of attempting to replace names long used by China with the so-called standard names as illegal, null, and void. The National Meteorological Center has maintained an orange alert for rainstorms across a broad swath of the country, including Zhejiang, Shanghai, Shandong, Beijing, and Tianjin. This after the strongest typhoon to strike China this year made 2 landfalls Sunday evening in Zhejiang and funneled strong winds and downpours in neighboring regions. Despite severe urban flooding and traffic disruption caused by Typhoon Typhoon, Shanghai has demonstrated systemic resilience as local authorities and market operators race to stabilize food supplies. Vegetable suppliers at Jiangqiao Wholesale Market are seen working overtime to pack produce. Market data shows the average wholesale price for mixed vegetables is holding below 4 yuan per kilogram, lower than the price in last week and the same period last year. Following large-scale flight reductions and cancellations, Shanghai's Pudong and Hongqiao airports have seen gradual resumptions of flights since Monday noon. Beijing has activated a Level 2 flight control emergency response as most parts of the capital city are bracing for more than 100 millimeters of rain within 6 hours and 150 millimeters within 24 hours from Tuesday evening through Thursday. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order calling for fewer childhood vaccinations by limiting the inoculation schedule to 11 immunizations. He said that would give U.S. children gold standard protection and align the country with peer nations that recommend fewer shots. Tracy Furness has more.
Effective immediately, my administration is recognizing gold standard childhood vaccine recommendations for only 11 core vaccinations against the most serious and dangerous diseases, along with the MMR, which hopefully will be split up. You have the MMR, we want it in 3 separate vaccinations, given at separate times. Together, there could be a possibility they're quite lethal, and separately, it looks like they are not at all lethal, but just very effective.
Trump's executive order to revamp childhood vaccine recommendations promotes his long-held belief that childhood shots should be spaced out into separate medical visits, but says it's still up to parents as to what they want to do.
Parents can still choose to give their children all of the vaccinations if they wish. It's up to the parents. We're making recommendations that are strong, but it's up to the parents if they wish, and they will be covered by insurance.
Trump went on to link vaccines to the increase in autism.
Decades ago, children received only a small fraction of the vaccines required today. In those times, people were much healthier, and of course, the high rates of autism now observed did not exist.
However, scientists have long concluded there is no link between the number or timing of vaccines to autism.
Potential link between vaccines and autism has been studied in over 40 well-designed, methodologically well-designed studies in over 7 countries involving over 5 million children. I'm not sure that there is anything that has been as thoroughly looked at as this question about whether or not there is a link between autism and vaccines. And the answer is unequivocally no. There is no such link. And no matter
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The first round of the seasonal flu vaccination outreach program at schools will include an e-consent function. The Department of Health says parents can submit consent forms for their children electronically before the start of the school year through the government's e-health app. Applications for the inoculation scheme at schools has opened since June. Starting Wednesday, each participating school will receive a dedicated QR code to be distributed by the school to parents. Parents must list their children as a family member on the e-health mobile app first to enable the consent function. Starting from August 17th, they can submit their consent form electronically.
Parents of children can also easily fill in the form in just a few minutes. For these parents who are not able to use the e-consent, they can continue to use the paper forms, and the school is well informed of this arrangement.
Police have launched a drone-facilitated crackdown on dangerous driving along the Kwun Tong bypass area. 10 drivers have been arrested in the operation. Aged between 25 and 51, the 9 men and 1 woman rounded up drove these 7 private cars and 3 motorbikes and were suspected of dangerous driving along the Kwun Tong bypass. Police say some arrested drivers were caught weaving dangerously between lanes at extreme speeds, creating precarious situations on the road. The police operation ran from August 3rd to 10th. Apart from using the laser speed gun, which sends infrared light to test car speeds, police also sent drones to conduct aerial surveillance. Police say the drones are flexible in deployment with a wider field of coverage, and drone footage that captured alleged offenses can serve as evidence when needed. Meanwhile, in another drone-facilitated enforcement, police on Monday ticketed at least 2 drivers with alleged driving-related offenses. The force say they will review the conditions in different districts to determine the use of drones to step up effectiveness in enforcement. TVB company, which manages TVB's overseas international business platform, signed memoranda of understanding with a content and entertainment company and a leading telecommunications service provider in Malaysia to set up collaboration across various creative, intellectual property development and audience engagement initiatives. The MOUs were signed during a Think Business, Think Hong Kong conference in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Apart from deepening industry partnership, TVB aims to deliver more high-quality Hong Kong content to Malaysian audiences with more advertising opportunities there. Apart from TVB, multiple Hong Kong media outlets also signed various MOUs in Malaysia. Director of Information Services John Tse, who witnessed the signing ceremony, says the partnerships would help Hong Kong media extend its overseas network and regional influence to tell a good Hong Kong story. The government has begun its 2-phase operation to cordon off and clear illegal structures at Bishop Hill in Sham Shui Po. Despite safety concerns, some residents nearby exercise and socialize around the area over the years, also officially known as Wo Chai Shan. Some residents could be seen heading up the hill this afternoon to exercise with various fitness equipment and recreational facilities. The police say some residents could be seen heading up the hill this afternoon to exercise with various fitness equipment and recreational facilities. The police say some residents could be seen heading up the hill this afternoon to exercise with various fitness equipment and recreational facilities. The Lands Department earlier posted a notice requiring those occupying the relevant government land to stop the occupation by Wednesday. After removing the items, the government will build fitness and recreational amenities, which are expected to be installed between late August and September. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.